All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss last night's Denver Nuggets win, a very impressive performance over the Boston Celtics. Final score was 103 to 84. 84 points. How about that, folks? A defensive victory, one where Denver really showed what they were capable of from a defensive standpoint. First time in long time. Kind of fun to see. I don't remember the last time the Nuggets held a team to 84 points. I think they held the Pelicans earlier this season, like right at the beginning of the year, to a pretty low total as well, 88. They also defeated the Wizards in January and held them to 97. But those are the only three times that the Nuggets have held a team under 100 points, under 100 during this season. Denver has had a very stressful defensive year. It's one maybe stressful is the wrong word, obviously, but still an impressive performance. Last season, the lowest point total they held a team to was 90. The year before, lowest point total was 88. In the championship year, the lowest point total was 91. The year before that, lowest point total held was 75. So that was one of the early games as well during that particular run. So you have to go back to 2021, over 4 years ago, nearly 5 years ago, to get to the most recent time the Nuggets held a team to such a low point total. This was an impressive performance. And yes, the Boston Celtics were on the second night of a back-to-back. Yes, there were some factors that definitely went in Denver's direction from a variance standpoint, but I do want to really give them credit here. And I think that there's a great opportunity to give them credit here because they just they did what they were asked to do. Real Talk SGA says, heard Joe's post game and Jaylen Brown's. They just missed wide open looks and were gassed, to be honest. Yeah, it probably felt that way, but I think the Nuggets helped them be gassed. It certainly helped them. I understand why the sentiment here, especially from some trolls, is that the Nuggets can't ever play good defense, can't ever get any good credit for playing defense, but it was a noticeable effort that they put in. And they had a lot of defensive guys out there around Nikola Jokic, who I think had a pretty good defensive game himself. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about all of this. But before we get into it, I want to put this out there. Tomorrow is a very special day for Mile High Sports. We are doing our first major Denver Nuggets watch party that I am going to be attending for this season. We did one on February 1st versus Oklahoma City. It was an unfortunate one where Denver, they weren't quite ready for it. They lost that game. This one is going to be big as well. We have so much fun at number 38. You're going to have a lot of good stuff. Fix It 24/7 is going to be there. I've got a lot of really good, exciting things for this particular watch party. As always, we will be doing a pregame show, and we're going to have Fix It 24/7 in there, reminding you that if your house is in trouble, call the Green Bubble. Suavecito Tequila will be there, the world's smoothest tequila, and just going to have some very great fun with some giveaways and some pregame conversation. They're always keeping people involved. I'll be there all throughout the game, even before the game. So if you want to come say hi, then you absolutely should. Remember, number 38 in Rhino, a lot of fun that we like to have there. And you can check out the Mile High Sports Studio where I record every Saturday show. We'll be there on Saturday as well. So should be a lot of fun. I think that this Nuggets defensive performance was one game, certainly. And like folks have mentioned, it is the second night of a back-to-back for the Boston Celtics, a team, and I made sure to mention this on last night's Locked On show. Like that, this team was like the Celtics team. They very much like, put in a lot of defensive effort and energy into the game before because they were without Jaylen Brown in that game. They held the Phoenix Suns to 81. Now, Phoenix didn't have Devin Booker in that game. There are a lot of factors for why that defensive performance was so good. But it takes a lot of effort to hold any team to this low total of points. It takes a lot of really good execution, really good effort. It is not entirely just teams missing open shots. And if you notice how the Nuggets often face off against the Celtics pretty much every single year, the Celtics seem to miss a lot of threes when the Nuggets are contesting them. It's every time. It's like during the championship year, during the year after, these two teams have battled against each other during the earlier game this season. The Nuggets actually do a pretty good job of cutting off what the Celtics want to do because their offense is pretty easy to understand. They are trying to hunt threes. They are rolling with their 5-man, or they are popping with their 5-man. There's not a lot of back cuts. There's not a lot of extra motion or anything like that. It is pretty standard what they are trying to do. And it leaves them vulnerable. And like the Nuggets, because they don't have to defend extra rotations, because they don't have to read and react to a whole bunch of crazy things the Celtics are doing, it makes them relatively easy for Denver to guard in comparison to some of the other top offenses, which use a lot of motion and a lot of action and just a lot of different stuff. The Celtics are not like that. They like the ISO and pick and roll around Jaylen Brown and Derek White, who Derek White was better than Jaylen Brown last night by a wide margin, and I continue to be very impressed. Every time I watch the Celtics, I think that Derek White's their best player every single time, which is hilarious. It just is. But Denver had to do the work. It wasn't entirely because the Celtics missed shots. It wasn't entirely because they were tired. Denver actually had to cut off various things. And yes, it was made a little bit easier when Jamal Murray went out. I'm not going to front for you guys. Like, Jamal has been pretty bad over the course of these last couple months. Would he have put in good effort into this game defensively? Yes. I think the team, based off of the practice and based off of the information that we've heard behind the scenes over the course of these last couple of days, they were irritated by the first 3 games of this All-Star, like post All-Star stretch. The 2 losses that they had, they took out their frustrations on the Blazers with a 54-point victory, but they're frustrated that they aren't executing well on either end of the floor when it matters against those teams on the road, in the Clippers and the Warriors. They knew that they should win those games, and so they kind of took it out on the Celtics. They knew they had to get back to the basics from a defensive standpoint and did everything that you would want to see them do. I was very impressed. I was very impressed by, like, first and foremost, Christian Brown and Bruce Brown at the point of attack. I thought did an excellent job against Jaylen Brown and Derek White when Brown was out there. When it was Peyton Pritchard, I thought that KJ Simpson did a fantastic job guarding him and heading off a lot of his actions. Spencer Jones was a menace out there defensively, just doing a lot of great stuff. Cam Johnson deserves a lot of credit defensively. Julian Strother did some great job fighting. And Nikola Jokic, who, I mean, look, he's not going to get a lot of credit from people outside of this chat, but I do think that Denver can defend with Jokic out there. Can they defend with both Jokic and Murray at a super high level out there? I don't know. Gosh, this is okay. Simmer down in the comments. Simmer down. I'm gonna get to this with Jamal. Like, this is getting ridiculous from Nuggets fans. I'm gonna get to this. Denver needed a high level of energy and execution defensively. Like, that, you have to bring that when you're going to face the Celtics team. Like, I've said that they're a little bit they're easier to defend for this Nuggets team specifically because of their mechanisms, but it still takes effort. It still takes execution. And Denver, the slice coverage that they've been doing, trying to prevent shots to the corner, is really, really good. There's a lot of stuff that they were doing on both ends of the floor that really set them up. One of the things that they did really well was not turn the ball over. Now, the Celtics are one of those teams that doesn't force a lot of turnovers. They, like Denver, do not force a lot of them. The difference is that Boston's really good at all the other technical aspects of defense, and they're physical at the point of attack without reaching in and gambling and fouling and things like that. But they do a really good job of that defensive profile and have for a while. Denver does that, except they don't force the turnovers. And so it makes it look a lot worse. Or, well, no, they neither of them force turnovers. My mistake. It's just that Denver also gives up some of the easy stuff that the Celtics don't usually give up. But Denver did a great job of that this time around. They didn't turn the ball over. They had 8 total turnovers. I'm pretty sure it was for 5 total points, or maybe it's like 9 total points off of turnovers. No, 5. It was 5 total points conceded off of turnovers by Denver, which says to me, one, dead ball turnovers are way better than live ball turnovers. And it felt to me like Denver had more dead ball turnovers than live. And then 2, they got back in transition. Like, they just had a lot more attention to detail on these things. And to me, that's what happens when you have a moment of realization as a team of like, we have to do this differently. We have to be better at this. And I think that they had that, whether it was on Tuesday, they did some film sessions, they did a practice. Like, they certainly had, I think, a come to Jesus kind of change of heart moments. Maybe I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to stick, but I do think that this team now knows, hey, we have to play hard defensively. There is no way to. All right, you're gone. There is no way to win a championship unless you play better defensively. And Denver's going to have to play the guys that are going to be helpful in that regard. They will have some positive moments when it comes to like just offense. Like, but David Adelman said in the presser yesterday that the reason why Denver, and he's obviously right, the reason why Denver has the record that they do right now is entirely due to offense. They need to come up with ways that when opposing teams can bother them defensively, whether it's with physicality, whether it's with athleticism, whether it's with just really good technical stuff, like, they are sometimes not going to score at a very high level. So they have to find ways to win in different manners. And this was a really good example of that, where Jokic does not score that well. Murray goes out. Denver needs to find more creative ways to score. And Denver ultimately prevails because they have a buffer where they give up 84 points. So it was really good stuff. I'm glad to see it from them. It's not going to be perfect going forward, but I do think that Denver has learned a little bit about themselves in this regard, that they can be better. They can be better on that front and have the capacity to defend at that level if everybody's giving effort, intensity, and really focused on the process. Been pretty good, and then we'll see if it continues. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss Jokic, and I think it was a pretty underwhelming scoring performance from him, but he did do some other good things that I really appreciated. And then we will also talk about the debut of KJ Simpson in front of the home crowd. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll.
When I go to court, these aren't my clients, these are my friends. These are people that I believe in, and they have one shot, just one shot for justice. If they've come to me and we've gotten to trial, their life has been turned upside down in some awful way. I'm all they have. So if I haven't put the time in, if I haven't trained, if I haven't humbly looked in the mirror and thought about ways I can be better, and I don't present my best self in court, then I failed them. And that's what motivates me as a trial lawyer, because when this is over, that client goes home. And if I haven't done my best for him, I haven't been his champion, then I've failed.
All right. We're back at it. Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's now discuss Jokic, who I thought, like, through the first 2.5 quarters of this game, I did not like his process for some of it. I do think that a lot of it, he's taking open shots. He's trying to take open shots. To me, there was a moment at the end of the second quarter where Murray had already been out. You don't have Aaron Gordon out there. You don't have Peyton Watson out there. And then guys get into foul trouble, and there's a little bit of like, hey, need to rest some guys. And there was a moment out there where both Zeke Naji, who had some good defensive moments last night, I'm not going to sit here and say that he didn't, but also missed some rebounds. And then KJ Simpson was playing his first ever minutes, like on the floor together in the rotation as part of it because Murray was out. And so you had I think it was Murray, or no, not Murray. It was KJ Simpson, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Zeke Naji, Nikola Jokic. And there was a moment there where Jokic was looking around like, I'm just going to shoot this. I just surveying at the top, trying to figure out what he's going to do, how the Nuggets are going to get involved. And I thought that that was a little bit too much of the emphasis for Joker rather than just trying to get into the paint or get closer to the paint, run some offense, and allow other guys the opportunity to then generate some shots for themselves because of his gravity, because of his attention. I thought it was settling. I thought he was doing the easy thing, but ultimately, it led to better results for Denver in the third and fourth quarter because I think he did take a whole bunch of shots in the third quarter as well, but those finally started to drop a little bit more consistently. I think he was 5 of 11. He got to the free throw line a couple of times. There was a really impressive three that he hit with about 35 seconds left to go at the end of that third quarter. And Denver had been shaky, like out of the halftime break and into the start of the third quarter. They went down a little bit, but then they kind of retraced a bit and came back into it and then pushed up the lead right at the end of the third, in large part due to Jokic's aggressiveness. And so that plan ultimately bore fruit at the end when the shots started to fall. And then you also got the turnovers and like mistakes by Boston that Denver turned into points then. And so you had this confluence of events where, okay, that dam finally started to broke. Jokic's shot started to drop, and that manifested in some really good time for Denver. But throughout it all, Jokic played great defense, and it's good to know that it's there. I don't think it's something that he can do every time, and I don't think it's fair to fans. Like it's fair for fans to expect that every single time. I do think that for Jokic, he has to press that button a little bit more frequently now, like in terms of amping up the effort on the defensive end. And this was the time to do it, right? Like Boston couldn't really score. Boston wasn't going to pull away from you. And they didn't have anybody significant that was going to like go crazy in this one. Jaylen Brown definitely definitely figured it out. Newsman says, come on, Ryan. I love catching your flow, but the recency bias is a bit manic, right? Is there recency bias here? I don't really know what I'm being recently biased on. Explain that in the chat. I'll respond. But I thought that what Jokic did in terms of figuring out and navigating and trying to then integrate KJ Simpson into things, and KJ Simpson had 4 assists as part of that. I thought that like just because Denver started pretty slowly from 3 around Joker, I think that he made that choice early on in the game to then like just press his own button a couple of times and not necessarily get as many people involved. But as the game went along and as everybody got a little bit more comfortable, Cam Johnson started to get a little bit more involved. Christian Brown hit a 3 off of a Jokic kick out. There were some good possessions that happened in part due to Jokic's attention and allowing other people to be successful. Julian Strawther had a pretty solid game despite the fact it was only 26 minutes and 12 points. Like I thought he was pretty good all around. Cam Johnson went 3 of 6 from 3. Christian Brown 2 of 5 from 3. Christian Brown, love to see it. 2 of 5 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Oh man, that's good to see. I know everybody is like going to look at it and be like 6 points, Ryan. What are you making such a big deal about? Christian has to learn how to take those threes and just be comfortable sitting out there on the perimeter sometimes and taking the shots. And if he hits 40% on them, then great. Like 1.2 points per shot is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. He had 0 turnovers. He had 7 rebounds. He defended Jaylen Brown really well. This was very KCP-esque in terms of the kind of role playing that Denver needed in terms of, hey, this is what the team needs right now. Got to just defend and space. And that's the only thing that you really need to focus on. And he did it beautifully. I know it's going to sound like copium and like, hey, wow, can't believe that. Yeah, no, I just think that it's been really impressive. Christian Brown, I think, has been one of the better Nuggets out of the All-Star break. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him overall. Yeah, been good stuff. Apparently, our troll is back. Why was Christian Brown a -3? It was I think I see -2 on here, unless I'm crazy. They like if DNVR said that they were disappointed in CB, I don't care. Like they have their right to their opinion. I think that Christian did a really good job guarding Jaylen Brown, and I think that he takes on that assignments. The reason why he was a -3 and not higher was because he didn't get in in the fourth quarter. But like Denver needed somebody to help hold down Jaylen Brown during that stretch, and keep him down during like. There's a reason why, like when Christian Brown was out there, the defense was really good. Now, when Christian Brown was off the floor, the defense was also really good because there were other guys that stepped up too, and that's the joy of having like a first, second, third, and fourth option defensively, as opposed to just one or two. I liked what I saw from the bench group in that fourth quarter. I thought that the energy that they put out there, I think it was like a 14-5 like start or 19-5 or somewhere in that general range. It was very, very impressive. Jonas Valanciunas got the scoring started in that fourth quarter. Very aggressive, grabbed some offensive rebounds, did some things, had a nice turnaround fadeaway over Neemias Queta. Bruce Brown defensively was great. Offensively, he wasn't amazing. He just 1 of 8 from the field. And the last make was a dunk that he got off of a Jokic pass, which was a very good Jokic pass. KJ Simpson only 1 of 5. Like Spencer Jones only 2 of 5. Like there were some inefficiencies there for sure. But like they locked down the Celtics at the beginning of that fourth. There was nothing that the Celtics were going to be able to do. And there were times where the Celtics did get some open shots and just bricked. And that was the point that I'm sure that Joe Mazzulla was looking at. Like, okay, we're generating wide open shots for like Peyton Pritchard, and Peyton Pritchard is bricking shots. But Ron Harper Jr. also took 7 threes. Jaylen Brown, 1 of 6 from 3. Denver did a good job defensively on the guys that really matter. Derek White got going in the first half, but then slowed down in the second half, especially from a 3-point efficiency standpoint. Nikola Vucevic just missed on some of the shots, but I thought some good contests by Jokic during that stretch as well. Sam Hauser only took 2 threes. Like, when was the last time you heard that Sam Hauser only took 2 threes in a game? It's very rare. Just thought that Denver did a really nice job overall. It's been great to see. Good God. Okay. We're gonna do 2 more things right now. We're gonna talk about KJ Simpson. It was really cool to see him finish. It was really cool to see him dunk in transition at the end of that third quarter. That was pretty sick. His defensive effort, his defensive energy and impact was great. It goes sort of beyond the box score in a lot of these things where he's just around. Like, one of the reasons why Peyton Pritchard had a bad game was because KJ Simpson was out there. And how cool is that? Like, that's pretty impressive. He wasn't the only guy. Of course, he played 13 minutes, played a relatively small amount of time, but it certainly felt to me like plus 13, 4 rebounds, 4 assists when he's out there, including 2 offensive boards, like just doing all the hustle things and trying to get involved in the game, and didn't have to do it as a scorer in order to be impactful. And that's a really valuable trait for this Nuggets team, where like you got a lot of guys who can score. There's a reason why the Nuggets are a great offensive team. They have got a lot of guys that can score. They don't have a lot of guys that could do what KJ Simpson did, and that was stay attached to the quick guards. And so the fact that he was out there being able to do that, like, again, he's on a 2-way contract. It's probably not going to be a long-term thing. Who knows? But like, I did really appreciate KJ Simpson stepping up in this regard. He fed off of the crowd, the dunk, and then the primal yell in front of the crowd, who some of them knew that he was a CU guy. Some of them did not know, clearly. But like, it felt good to see him going out there and making an impact immediately because the Nuggets needed it. They absolutely needed it. And they needed somebody who could fill in some of those point guard minutes for sure. Bruce Brown played 28 minutes. KJ Simpson played 13. Murray played 8. So Murray will eventually be fine and be back. But like, this is why you bring in guys. This is why you bring in two-way guys. This is why you fill out the extra roster spots, because you just never know. You never know when those guys can make an impact, when they can absolutely change the flow and complexion of a game. So really good stuff. Glad to see it from him, and glad to see it from the Nuggets as a whole. They embraced KJ. They involved him. They allowed him to kind of play his game in some ways. And even though he didn't make a bunch of shots in this game, it was still nice to see him have an impact as a guard. Okay. The final thing I'm going to talk about in this segment is defending Jamal Murray, because my God, there are some trolls in the comments, but also some like real Nuggets fans who kind of feel this way and are very frustrated about his defense lately. And they see Denver winning a game and they see Murray leaving, and they're like, wow, hey, look, see what happens when Murray leaves? Like, see what kind of defense you can play? Look, to some degree, you're correct. To some degree, like, Jamal has not had a very good defensive season. He's actually been horrible defensively for a couple of months. But a lot of that reason is because he's been giving so much to the team as a whole. Like, he's averaged 25 points, 7.5 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 42% from the three, 88% from the line. He has won Denver games, and he was the biggest reason. Not Peyton Watson, not Aaron Gordon. It was Jamal Murray who was the biggest reason why they won those games without Jokic. It was because he was there every single night outside of the Philly game and just did everything that he could, to make it happen. God, I'm going to ban you, brother. Like, Cade Cunningham does more than Jamal and plays better defense. Yeah, Cade Cunningham's an MVP candidate. Jamal is not. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Simmer down. Like, you are going to get banned because it's just ridiculous. Like, nobody is asking Jamal Murray to be an MVP candidate. You should not be asking Jamal Murray to be an MVP candidate. You know who? Like, Cade Cunningham's former number 1 overall pick in the draft. Like, he also has young legs. Like, he has fresh legs. He's a 4th-year player, a 5th-year player. Jamal's in year 9, year 10, and like has gone through ACL surgery and has gone through lower leg injuries like for much of his career. So asking him to go all out in these cases, especially after what he did for much of this season, is ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. And like, okay, would you take Cade over Jamal right now? I would. And I'm a fan of Jamal's. I think he's been fantastic. But like, would I take Cade over him? Probably, because Cade's doing amazing stuff for Detroit right now as the leader of that team. He's more comparable to Jokic in some ways with the kind of role that he's playing. And yet, it doesn't have to be a denigration of Jamal Murray to say that, because Cade Cunningham's played like a top 7 player in the NBA, and I think Jamal's like 10 or 12. Like, maybe 15. Like, I don't understand. Like, people are so quick to just, what have you done for me lately about all of these players? Every single one. It's insane to do this to Jamal at this point. Absolutely insane. And you should, like, it is disrespectful as hell. Thinking about, like, he has played 300 more minutes at least than every other player on the Nuggets. He's been out there. He's played 54 out of their 59 games. He's missed 5 all season. Jokic has missed 16. Like, it's ridiculous. And this is something where he's clearly been playing extremely hard, like, for much of the year, and now is trying to scale back a little bit to save himself for the playoff run that you guys will grade him on, that all of us will grade him on and grade the Nuggets season on. Because, like, as much as I care about, like, Denver building championship habits and doing all the things that they're supposed to do leading into the playoffs, the most important thing is how successful they are in the playoffs, bar none. And so if Jamal's doing, like, if he has taken his foot off the gas from a defensive standpoint so he can apply the pressure in the defensive end in the playoffs. Like, my God, like, how could you not take that trade every single time? Guys are not going to be perfect all the time. Look at Jokic. Jokic has been horrible defensively for much of this season. And the one game, like, here's the game that he really shines on the defensive end, and everybody's going to crown him and say, see, blame Jamal. Absolutely not. Those two things are independent of each other. Jokic defensively has been pretty bad for much of the season, and Jamal has also been pretty bad for much of the season. They're independent of each other. But the thing is that you need both of them. You can't just get rid of one because you don't like the way that they play defense. Because, my God, there is going to come a time, and it's probably going to be in the OKC series, where Jokic is frustrated as hell, where he is beleaguered and worn down and fouled and everything. And you're going to wonder, oh, man, I really wish Jamal would step up and score here. Really wish Jamal would be like, yeah, and he will. He will be there. It's going to be like, man, like, this season has been hard for a lot of people, but if you turn on Jamal Murray right now, you deserve to lose. Flat out, you deserve to lose. What he has done for the team has risen above any particular defensive failings that he has at the moment or him getting sick. Good God, man. Okay. Let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to crap all over that Calvin Booth interview with Kevin O'Connor.
Golf season is here, and Denver Golf Passes make it easier than ever to play. Start your golf journey with Learn and Play 1.0. 5 clinics, 5 rounds, 5 buckets. Already playing? Take your game up a level with Learn and Play 2.0. Or grab the Friends and Family Pass. 20 par 3 rounds and 30 mini golf or range sessions. And for new players wanting reps, the Practice and Play Pass gives you 10 rounds and 15 range buckets. Find the pass that fits your game. Visit cityofdenvergolf.com.
All right. We are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Thanks for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed that rant. If you didn't, hit the like button anyway, and then maybe I'll change my ways for you. It'll be fine. That's not happening. Okay. Yesterday, it was either yesterday or the day before, Calvin Booth made his first public appearance and public speaking appearance in terms of discussing what happened in the Denver Nuggets situation from his point of view. There's been a lot of other folks that have had their say and had their discussion. We've reported on various things. We've discussed about, like, here's what people are saying behind closed doors. Here's what people are like saying on the record about the situation. And Calvin Booth had not said anything up until this point. And it's funny, he went on with Kevin O'Connor, the person who he went on with for an on-record interview, apparently, after the 2023 championship run. And that was the first time where Calvin Booth really said some inflammatory comments. And so it's clear that Kevin O'Connor just gets it out of him. Like, I don't understand what's happening and why Calvin Booth is doing this. But the long and short of it is that, like, Calvin was unapologetic in a lot of ways about the way that the situation went his 3 years as the general manager for the Nuggets. I understand why from his perspective, but I also think that he completely missed the boat in terms of what he put out there on like as an interview for and talking about the situation and opening up and being honest. And obviously he's trying to tell his side and he's trying to impart why he did some things. But here's the long and short of what he's saying from this interview. Over the course of 3 years, he won a championship, and then the Nuggets got hurt in 2024. Murray and Gordon and some guys like definitely sustained some injuries. Denver did not perform well at the end of 2024, and they lost. They gassed out. 2025, Aaron Gordon sustained some injuries. Michael Porter gets hurt. Denver has some cap restraints that they don't have in terms of like, hey, we can't go over this second tax apron, so you're not going to bring back KCP, Calvin. This is kind of directed from ownership. They weren't ever really serious about giving KCP an offer, and as a result, KCP left. Denver had a variety of different things that they had to do in terms of replenishing the roster, and Calvin did his best in his mind to replenish the roster with talents that he believed in. And one of the things that he really emphasized during his stretch was going with young guys, was not going with veterans over, like, and especially veteran minimum guys. It was not having a whole bunch of guys that would get in the way of the development of young players that could then take on the burden going forward. And he battled with Malone behind the scenes, and Malone was not playing the guys that he would want to play. Like, Calvin Booth would complain all the time behind the scenes about Malone's rotations, about who Malone was playing and different things that he was doing. Malone would complain all the time about the guys that Calvin Booth was doing and the mandates that he was having laid down. It was supposed to be a collaborative process, but the collaboration broke when Calvin tried to instill his vision, and it ran completely adjacent to or completely against what Michael Malone's vision was for what the team needed to be. And Michael Malone is rigid in this regard. I'm not going to give Michael Malone too much of a pass here either, because he would not shake in terms of who his guys were, and he would not change and evolve. And it took him a long time because he won a championship playing the way that he wanted to play. But Calvin Booth wanted to change it and be and evolve and be different. And he wanted to have the long-term view on some of these guys like Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strother, Hunter Tyson, Colin Gillespie was a two-way guy that he brought in. Spencer Jones was a two-way guy that he brought in. These guys are good. There's a lot of good players. And Deron Holmes tore his Achilles. That wasn't anybody's fault. It's an unfortunate piece of luck. But the players that Calvin Booth insisted on putting into the rotation and putting onto the roster and trying to force, not just giving it to Malone as an option, but forcing Malone to play, saying you are going to play my guys. He took away the veterans. He took away the guys that could potentially bridge the gap between those things. And I understand why he did it, because we've seen Tim Connolly do that with Michael Malone before, where, hey, you remember the Jamal Murray, Emmanuel Mudiay, Jameer Nelson trio that was at the beginning of the 2017-18 season? Yeah, Jameer Nelson got traded before that year so that Jamal Murray would be the starter. Jameer Nelson would have been the starter, and Jamal Murray would have come off the bench in that case, and Emmanuel Mudiay would not have played. That was a mandate. It was Tim Connolly protecting Michael Malone from his own bad habits at that point. But they were more collaborative. They were far more collaborative than what it ended up being with Calvin and Michael Malone. And those guys would not talk. And so what Calvin is saying on this interview, and did consistently say on this interview, was that he thought he wasn't getting enough credit for helping building this team. He tried to, there were some ways he tried to take credit for building the championship team and the trade for KCP, which was done by Tim Connolly prior to, all reports were that KCP was going to be a Nugget at the trade deadline the year before, the season prior. And then they decided to wait until the summer, but it was going to happen. And that was something that Tim set up. And Calvin, wants to give himself credit for signing Bruce Brown, but that was a collaborative effort for sure. Michael Malone was very much in on the idea of Bruce Brown. He's like, why is he out there? Let's go get him. Calvin does get credit for drafting Christian Brown, for drafting Peyton Watson, for identifying players that are really valuable. And yet, what Calvin has spoken about, the way he spoke about potential and the way he spoke about ceilings and things of that nature, He said, you never really fully know what a guy's ceiling is going to be, but you have to give them the opportunity. You have to help them develop. You have to give them the opportunity and the minutes to see that come to fruition. My thesis is that Calvin Booth was too focused on the idea of his guys developing into stars and starters and role players and valuable pieces rather than what would help the team win the most. And he thought that, look, if you develop Peyton Watson into a star, I see the vision. How can you not see it? If you develop Peyton Watson into a star, so none of this matters. And to some degree, he has a point because Peyton Watson has shown some star qualities, but it's also taken him time. And like it was always going to take time. He was so raw at that moment that like Michael Malone's fighting for his job on a nightly basis, expecting him to go out of his way to blame, expecting him to go out of his way to develop Peyton Watson after Denver's winning a championship, to me is a pretty difficult burden. That's a pretty difficult thing to do, to ask any coach to try to do. So I don't know, man. It's annoying. It's frustrating. I think that I do not think that Calvin Booth thinks that he holds any liability for the situation. I think he thinks he's right about this. And okay, I am not a secret Jokic hater. He's my favorite player I've ever covered. Ever. Stop this. Do not do this. Sorry. What Calvin Booth did was take his own vision and implant it over what the Nuggets were doing, what the Nuggets were trying to do, and tried to supersede his own vision and his own guys over that. Michael Malone had his own guys too. And then Josh Kroenke and the Kroenkes in this situation, they let that thing run for too long. And like there was also the conversation that like Calvin brought up in there that, hey, the Kroenke organization doesn't really value executives that much. And it's hilarious that like they're right. Like it's 100% true, but like you can't really argue with the results that much, especially with what Ben Tenzer and John Wallace just did in this offseason and what they have put together and some of the moves that they have made to set Denver up for championship success again and undoing Calvin Booth's mess. Like, it's been pretty impressive. It's been pretty impressive to see what those guys have done in the same situation. So I don't know. Like, do I think that the mandate should like this? It's a stupid mandate that they can't like pay the second tax apron. It's a stupid thing that they're trying to get under the luxury tax. Like, if you're a fan, you should be livid that is the case, that they are like so messing with the salary cap sheet and the luxury tax sheets and trying to just save money in that regard. I understand why, but like when you have a championship opportunity, you can't be pinching pennies in the midst of Jokic's prime. Like, that's actually ridiculous. So I don't know. Like, I think that there are so many people that are at fault in the entire situation. I think that Calvin Booth is most at fault because he was the disruptive force. He was the one who was unwilling to bend in a lot of these situations and then ultimately had the decision-making power and the influence. Like, that it would have been a problem. It would have been a problem to keep him around and to let him kind of work through those struggles. But like, it is clear to me based off of this interview and based off of these interactions that Calvin is still unsure or still super bitter about not having a job right now, thinks that he did a fantastic job and is unwilling to admit fault in any of these situations. And as a result, like, I don't know what the job that he's going to get next is. Like, it'll probably be some sort of assistant GM job or a special advisory role or something like that. But I can tell you this, like, Tim Connolly and a lot of people that are in Tim Connolly's camp are not happy with Calvin Booth. They're not super pleased about the way that he is operating and the way that he was speaking about the idea that he was building that champion and sort of taking the credit for that finishing situation. And there's a lot of people around the league that feel the same way. So I don't know what's going to happen with Calvin Booth, but it was interesting content. That's for sure. I think that there is plenty around the organization that I like. There's plenty I would change. There's plenty I think Denver should implement. Like a practice facility would be a great start. Like, hey, where's TikTok? Like this is not that hard. If you want to be seen as a premier organization, you have to do premier things. And Calvin Booth wasn't doing premier things, but he also had restrictions that were tied onto him by ownership. I do not think that Michael Malone was the right person for the job at the end of it. The locker room had clearly been lost upon him. And seeing how they have rallied around David Adelman, like immediately after that, and then in the months since, has been really impressive. David Adelman's done a good job. Still has some things to learn, but the team is in a better place right now than they were last year, in part due to the even-keeled nature there, and in part due to David Adelman doing a lot of the things and working directly with Ben Tenzer and John Wallace on some of these things and trying to help implement their vision. The collaboration there has been a lot better. It's a less toxic situation, and there were a lot of people that contributed to that toxicity, but the fact is that it was toxic and that it needed to happen. Like the break needed to happen. And I think the Nuggets are clearly better off for it as a result. So interesting stuff. If you want to go listen to it, it's the Kevin O'Connor show. Kevin did a really good job. KOC is very good at getting some of these good information, little tidbits. And I think he's got some good insights, and I implore you to listen to it. It'll be a good hate listen. That's for sure. All right. Folks, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll. If you didn't see it before, right at the top of the show, make sure to check out number 38 tomorrow. I will be there for the OKC watch party at number 38. We'll be doing a pregame show brought to you by Fix It and Suavecito Tequila. Very much appreciate what they've put together here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens at this watch party. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Make sure to say hi, stop in, and check it out. Everybody have a good day. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.